Okay, so this is our final section. So this is 10 questions to sketch out your cinematic identity.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't think too hard about it. It's
No,
not a
unless
test or
you're really
anything.
going to expose myself.
No. Not at all, not at all. Okay, so question 1, favorite cinema?
Newland Filmhouse.
Okay.
Can I quantify? Can I
Yes,
quantify that?
of course.
I mean, I've got lots of different cinemas for different reasons, but Newland is because it's my local cinema, and I think it's a great cinema anyway, even if it wasn't my local cinema. I know plenty of people who travel miles to it, but I think the cinema being local to you is very important.
Okay, second question. And we've kind of answered this, so we can go past this one quickly. Which streaming services are you subscribed to?
BFI Player, Mubi, Netflix, Prime, Amazon,
Right.
and what's the big Disney.
Oh, Disney. Okay.
And also Discovery Plus, but that was for
the cycling. Yeah.
But then there's sort of films and stuff on there, or TV, documentaries and stuff on there. So
I'm in and out with Now TV.
Yeah,
for the tennis. Sometimes I'm on and off.
right. Yeah. And then I have I did subscribe. I took the free trial of Apple TV.
Okay.
Because I wanted to watch Masters of the Air for Callum, because Callum is in Masters.
Yeah.
So before I met him, or before our first and second meeting, I think I took a free trial of Apple TV so I could watch it, because he was outraged I hadn't watched it.
Oh, okay.
So the second time I met him, I'd watched it and I was an authority on it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you didn't do it before then. You could say, oh, you were good in that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
No, I completely forgot. I watched I watched almost everything else he'd done, because I've been sent links from the casting director. But I also knew quite a lot of his work.
Right.
Because I sort of fell in love with Callum a little bit when I saw Glue on
okay. Yeah.
E4 all those years ago.
Great. Okay. Watching alone or watching with friends?
Both.
Family.
Yeah, both. I quite happily go to the cinema on my own. I quite like watching stuff. If I'm watching at home, I quite like to watch it with other people, because it stops me getting distracted.
Yeah.
Bizarrely,
No, that's really strange. Exactly the same. Because I will get distracted if I'm on my own, but if my other half is there, we'll
no, it's unacceptable. Yeah, pick up the phone, and
for sure.
And a lot of it's not. A lot of my picking up the phone when I'm watching a film is related to the film. So I'll go on Wikipedia or IMDb Pro to find out shooting location and stuff like that. But all that's the other person sees is you pick up your phone, so they sort of presume you're on Instagram and not actually doing film homework.
Yeah.
So, I think at home we have a thing called the Paul Film Society, because Paul's the name of the village that I live in. So there's like 4 of us, me and Mary and Mary's niece and her friend Anna. We've got Paul Film Club, so every Monday night we'll watch something which I curate. Right. I give everybody an option of 3 films that are heavily curated by me.
Right. Sounds like serious stuff,
And actually I think they've got I'm away, so I think they're doing one tomorrow night without me, which is the curatorial standard sort of goes from the floor where I'm away. Oh, yeah, films you as Sandra Bullock if I'm not there.
Well, when the cat's away, all that, Yeah. Okay. Front row or back row?
Well, normally I'm front row if it's somebody else's film, but I've been going to the cinema like twice a week for the last few weeks, watching my film for QC reasons and grade and mix and stuff, and I tend to sit at the back so I can keep an eye on the other people in the room and see what
director move. You know what I mean?
For sure. And actually, the last few times because we've had the room to ourselves, I end up moving around the screen, sitting in different seats, which is quite interesting, because you're having different experiences in different places.
That is very true. I'm writing a piece on that right at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Question 5: an actor you'll watch in anything?
I did think about this the other day. Michelle Williams.
Oh, right.
Good Kristen Stewart.
You only need one. That's fine. Yeah.
Who's good? I'd also actually say George and Callum, and that's not just to be a creep. But now knowing them as people, as well as movie stars, I find it fascinating to now watch.
That's an interesting insight, isn't it? You know, that you know the person and then you're seeing what they're doing on screen.
And I know their method.
Yeah.
And I know what they're like as people. And I've watched them in micro detail in the editing of the film. So I mean, hopefully that'll build up. That I'll have a big list of people that I'll watch in everything. Because
Great.
and and it's, I mean, they're just, I've never met Michelle Williams or Kristen Stewart, but as presence on the screen, absolutely.
Yeah. An actor you just don't get. Like maybe everybody loves them, but you kind of don't get it.
No, nobody.
Right.
No. I mean, the opposite, I would say. I don't, because I don't feel that at all. Because I always think with actors, there may be characters that I don't get.
Okay.
But I think I don't think there's any sort of, I don't think there are any bad actors, for example.
Yeah.
It's bad scripts, there's bad direction, there's bad editing. But for actors, I think the actors, especially if you're talking about established actors, great, they might make bad decisions or be advised badly, or or a script or a director might let them down. But I think an example of an actor who some people seem to be incredibly irritated by as a human that I don't get is Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, we've had people say that.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah. And I think he's a very good actor. And again, it's like everybody in the right thing. He's great.
But also as a person, I've heard people say, he's a great actor, but God, he's irritating. I've sort of I think he's great. And like Morgan's age, 16, they all love him. And so I've seen it from, and he's like, why do people not like him? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him. I knew obviously you remember his name. He's got a distinct name. And then I hadn't really seen him in anything. And then I saw the Dylan picture and then was like, well, what a performance.
Yes. Yeah.
And then dug more into watching his interviews and turning up at the South Bank on a Lime bike and all that kind of stuff. He's always funny, It doesn't seem to be mad.
He's just doing what he wants to do, basically.
And then now he's going out with one of the
Kardashians
to get stick. It's like, fuck off. How do you know? You might be in love.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Question 7: the most physically affected, like you've had a physical reaction in the cinema.
Probably The Mission.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which was a really defining moment for me in going to see a film that I knew nothing about as a kid. I was taken to the Savoy in Penzance, which is the Penzance cinema, by my dad to go see Crocodile Dundee. He was very excited about taking me to see it. And we got there and I was underage and it was a 15, incredibly. And so we weren't allowed in. But they just converted the balcony in the cinema into another screen. So there was a screen too. So the person selling the ticket said, you can go see the other film, which is a PG, which was The Mission. Unbelievably, that was PG and Crocodile Dundee was a 15. So my dad said, okay, we'll go and see that. So we went in there knowing nothing about it. And it just blew my mind I'm not sure if I've seen it since. I did recently buy the DVD of it in a charity shop for like 50 quid. But I think the ending of that film was just like, whoa. Yeah. You end a film like that, it was just, but there was another film that was shown at the Cornwall Film Festival actually that I had a real strong reaction to, which is that bluegrass film, Broken Circle
Breakdown. Oh my God. Yeah.
Crikey,
that is hardcore. That.
Oh, yeah.
You don't realize, and it's just like that, isn't it?
And I remember one of the screenings there, somebody was sort of like hysterically crying and then kind of fainted. And I remember people in the audience behind us. It must have been I kind of seen it twice, so it must have been the same screening. But somebody was shouting, "Turn the film off! Turn the film off!" Because this person had just like cried herself unconscious.
Wow.
And then I think I sat behind Neil, Neil was sat in front of me, and then at the end, it was like,
Yeah.
the roller was going, and there was like bluegrass track playing over it. And I was just thinking, God, the lights are going to come up in a minute. I got to get myself together because it's quite embarrassing. And then I noticed Neil's shoulders were going.
Yeah.
I thought, well, he's not laughing, so he must be crying.
Yeah.
And then he sort of turned around, and then you realise everybody in the cinema was in that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a film that is just criminally unknown.
Just gone, isn't it?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. I remember saying to Mary, I got back and said, never watch this film, because her bar for
trauma kind of thing.
It's like millimeters off the ground.
Right. Okay.
This will do you in for a decade if you web this film. Do not watch it. And then she did end up watching it. She was she saw it because she was somewhere where there was a love film.
Okay.
DVD.
Okay.
And she was there, and she was babysitting and put it on and watched it.
I've got babysitting as well.
And then came home and said, she said, I realised halfway through it was that film that, she said, I watched it. I told you never to watch it. She was like, yeah, it was halfway through. I realised it must be the film that you told me about. Yeah, so that was a real. But again, I think everybody who saw that must have had that reaction. Yeah, still nobody talks about that film.
I know, amazing.
Subtitles, probably the problem.
Maybe. Okay, we're at question 8 now. Walk out or stick it to the bitter end?
Always stick it to the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never walked out of the film?
No.
Okay.
You always have a nap.
Yeah, that's true.
It was always comfy seats. I almost walked out of American Werewolf in Paris.
Right, because it was just crap.
Yeah, it was a day. It was when I was at university in Bournemouth, and it was one of those cinema days when all tickets were £1. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And so, like in Westover Road in Bournemouth, where the Odeon and the ABC, and I think there might have been another cinema there, they all were running this. They were all doing the scheme, so you could go in for £1.
Yeah.
And we were all film students, so that was the highlight of the year when that happened.
Yeah. I rarely walk out when something is just crap or mediocre. More for me, it's mental health stuff. I mean, that sounds a bit, grandiose, but like I went to see Beau is Afraid, and I just wasn't in a good place. And I was like, I can't see this, Yeah, it was that reason.
Yeah, exactly. Which is more about if it's about you rather than the film. I walked out of Upstream Colour actually.
Oh right, okay.
I've never seen the film. It was projected in the wrong aspect ratio, and part of it was on the ceiling, it was on the walls either side, it was being projected on the backs of the seats, and I went out and told projectionist, it was like
the button presser.
It was a teenager covered in popcorn. Okay, I said the film's in the wrong aspect ratio, and they said, "Oh, go and see what's going on." And they went off and came back and said, "Yeah, sorry, I pushed all the buttons and nothing's happening." So I was just like, "Oh, because I just have to." So but that wasn't a comment on the film. That was on the cinema experience.
Yes, that's an interesting one to
But what I was going to say was the National Cinema Day thing was the only reason I was going to walk out was because it wasn't a very good film, American Werewolf in Paris, but I just knew there were other films that I could get into for £1. Like to start. So it was almost like being at a film festival when you go, I've made the wrong choice.
I'm going to go next door. Yeah.
But I didn't. I'd said, I watched the. I can't say I've seen it unless I've seen all of it. And also I always stay to the end of the roller as well. So what it was like, I
dedicated.
I've seen the whole film. If I haven't seen the whole of the roller.
Okay. Question 9. You can interpret this how you want. Is there a film that's a relationship deal breaker for you?
No.
Okay.
No.
You've got to like this film, otherwise all bets are off, kind of thing. No, there doesn't in the film.
No, because everybody watches films in different ways anyway. So there could be a film that somebody watched and didn't like, but really they weren't in the right place to watch it or something like that. So
you're much more accommodating than me. I think there's certain films where if I would like a first date or something, and the person said, "Let's go and see this," that's my favorite film. I'd be like,
somebody said,
"No chance,"
Yeah, if somebody said, "What's your favorite film?" They said, "Try it for the Wit."
Well, I was thinking more Sex and the City too.
History, but for the message.
Yeah.
Then I might get, that might be a red flag.
That is a good point.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But not, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because I, who's to say that there would be a certain day when, I could sit and watch Sex and the City too and go, well, that's all right. There might be a day if I,
Maybe.
if I get kicked in the head by a horse or whatever, there are those instances where you might. So that, I don't think so. You think? I mean, cinema is the most important thing in the world, but people's taste in films isn't the most important thing.
No, that is true.
At least they're watching films.
It's true.
If somebody said, "Oh,
They've gone to the cinema with you. What more do you want? Yeah.
if I'd said to somebody, what's your favorite film?"
Yeah.
and they said, "I've never seen a film," they're not. Oh, they'd gone. Or
It's an interesting talking point now.
said, "Do you want to go to the cinema?" and they say, "What's a cinema?" Then that might be. But I don't know where. How would I get into that conversation with that person in the first place? Because most of my conversations, I've got very little small talk that isn't film, so I doubt if I
Me too,
got that
me
far.
too. Okay, final question. This one's always tailored to the guest. Which film would you like to see at the cinema for the first time over again? Like blanked from your memory.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? I'd love to see that again without knowing anything about it.
Big Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the film that I just know inside out.
Yeah.
I bought the novelization of it. That's now, it's a complicated one because that film was written as a short story, and then the short story was sort of so good that I think even before it was published, it was then turned into a screenplay. Then they made the film, then they published the story, and now they've gone back and expanded the story. And I think it kind of came out about 5 years ago. The book, which fills in all of the gaps, all the scenes that aren't in the film, and all the backstory and all of this kind of stuff. Which ordinarily I'd just go, I don't want to know that. And if somebody did that with one of my films, I would go mad. But for Big Wednesday, it's such a massive part of my, I was gonna say life, but I think it's part of my personality. That film, that I would just love to walk in and just go, because I just think that film is about Cornwall in the 1990s as much as it is about California in the late 60s, early 70s. So to walk in and see that and go, guys, this is a film about me and my friends or my childhood, I think that would be the one. I think, and it's probably the film I've seen the most as well. So yeah, and but also I do think, because we're constantly changing, I think every time you watch a film, you do watch it differently. I watched something the other day that I can't remember what it. I watched The Tree of Life again.
I watched that recently because I did it for the editing class.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, it didn't affect me as much as the last time I saw it. But it didn't worry me because I thought next time I see it, it might affect me more. Again, it was just, and it made me realize, nothing. The film hasn't changed, but I've changed, and maybe I've changed temporarily, or I was in a different mood that day, or I've watched a film that I've been watching my film over and over again that's got 1 billion scenes in it, and it goes at this real rate of knots, and maybe I just wasn't able to relate to that film as much, and and there were certain bits that just didn't get me that time. So I do think every time, and it's an argument for watching things over and over again, because every time you watch it, you are really watching it for the first time because you've changed.
Yeah.
So I can watch films like, I can watch Performance any day of the week, and it will feel like the first time I've seen it. And that's the extreme example because there's so much going on in a film like that. But I can also watch like another film that I love, The Perfect Storm, which is an out and out Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, it subverts some Hollywood traditions in terms of like a happy ending and things like that. But it's kind of an action movie.
Sure.
But I can watch that any day of the week and it feels like it's new. If it connects with you, I think it does feel like the first time you've seen it. But also, I think maybe the first time you see a film isn't the best viewing you have of it.
I think that's true. Yeah.
And maybe the films that you love the first time you see aren't necessarily the films that stay with you. like for example, Radio On, which was the first time I saw it, I could not work out for ages whether I loved it or hated it. And it took me for a really long time and several viewings to go, right, I love it. Yeah. Now, but until 5 minutes ago, I still hated it. But no, I've chosen. Yeah. I've got my two statements, and I'm going with love it. And I always have since then. But who's to say I could watch that tonight and go, it's not actually as good as I thought it was.
Yeah.
There's interesting thing. I was asked by,
I think it was for The Guardian to name a film that I'd seen once and haven't seen since because it's not available anywhere. So it's a film that's not on any streamers. You can't get a DVD. It's never been on DVD or whatever. You can buy an American VHS of it for $500 or something like that, but it's very difficult to see. So I picked Last Summer, Barbara Hershey.
Okay.
Film from like 68, I think it is, 69. Which I saw once on TV when I was a kid, and it just really stayed with me. Set on Fire Island on Long Island. And I'm such a geek about it. I actually went and found the location where it was filmed. And the BFI have just announced a new Film on Film festival that's this summer. So 2 years since they did the inaugural Film on Film festival, where they just 3 days of just screening stuff from film. And they found a print of Last Summer, just this knackered old print. I shouldn't say knackered old. I'm sure it was great, but Julie at the BFI said, yeah, it's an original.
Right.
I think it's an original exhibition, 35mm exhibition print. So she said, it's not in great condition. I was like, well, brilliant, perfect. Don't want to see it in perfect condition. Yeah. So I'm going to get to see that on the 13th of June. And in a way, that's going to be a kind of first viewing. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's going to be really great. Yeah.
I don't even know whether I watched it all when I watched it on TV. And I watched it on TV, and in the 80s probably, or 90s, on a 4:3 TV, probably pan and scanned. So that for me feels like this kind of weird second chance to see something that I never thought I'd see again, certainly not on the screen, and walk in and see that. So maybe that's the one that's on my mind at the moment.